Is Miranda Priestly secretly a Marxist? On the surface, Miranda Priestly is very obviously a capitalist. She's the capitalist, an absolute titan of her industry. So no, she's probably not a Marxist. Except, there is this one moment in the first film where she goes on this great monologue, where she breaks down the fashion industry. Now you put that monologue next to something that Karl Marx wrote in 1857, something really weird happens. They're saying the exact same thing. Now the argument isn't only about fashion. It's about something that affects every single choice you think you're making freely right now. It's also about democracy, and it's about production, and ultimately it's about freedom. Let me show you what I mean.
Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue, it's not turquoise, it's not lapis, it's actually cerulean. And you're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets? I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Karl Marx's argument in the Grundrisse can be framed around control. Specifically, who controls production and what gets made. In a capitalist system, the people who own the factories, the design houses, the print presses, and the distribution networks, they decide what products enter the world and which ones don't. It's not the consumers, it's not the workers, it's the owners. Just like Miranda Priestly. And the thing about that power is it's largely invisible. You experience it as a choice, right? You go into a shop, you pick out a jumper, a pair of jeans, and you feel like you're an autonomous person making a free choice of your own free will, right? And in a really narrow, obvious sense, you kind of are. Nobody forced you. But in the Grundrisse, his point is production, distribution, exchange, and consumption. That is, what gets made, how it moves around, how it gets bought and sold, and who buys it are not separate. They're not independent spheres. The consumer who thinks they're just freely choosing has been created by the production process itself, which sounds a bit convoluted, but bear with me. So by creating the consumer, it produces not just the thing, right, that ends up on the shelf. It produces the need, it produces the desire, and it produces the manner in which you consume it. You don't just pick things, right? The production process has already shaped what you want, how you want it, how you're going to get it, and where you're going to get it from. And this is exactly the point that Miranda Priestly's making. And she shows it, step by step, using her industry as a template, by pointing out that that specific shade of blue originated in high fashion, where she operates. It cascades down through the distribution chain, getting filtered each time it goes, and eventually it lands in this clearance bin where Andy chooses to buy it. So the Marxist term for what Miranda is describing in a very capitalist, type A kind of way, cerulean, blue, which is the colour, goes from runway into department stores, where it's distributed, into a casual corner clearance bin, where it's exchanged. And yes, Runway is a magazine. Runway didn't explicitly produce it. But Miranda Priestly chose it, right? Until eventually it ends up on your body. Andy thinks her position at the end of that chain is in and of itself independent from that network. It's not. She's just the end point of it. So the deeper point here that Marx and Miranda are making is that there is no outside of capitalist production, right? If you think you're sitting outside of the system, you've just not traced it far enough. So Miranda's point and Karl Marx's point is that the field of choices that you choose from were already decided for you upstream of where you are at that point, right? By people you've never met, in rooms you'll never be in, and making decisions that you had no democratic input on whatsoever. She says it herself. That decision was made for you by the people in this room. Those that own the means of production decide production itself. Therefore, they decide consumption. And it's presented to us as if it's the other way around, but it's not. There is no outside of this system.
Right, February, back of the issue. Did anybody speak with Salma's people yet?
Yes, but she'd rather do a summer cover because she has a movie coming out.
What about Testino? Where are we on that?
Zach Posen's doing some very sculptural suits, so I suggested that Testino shoot them at the Noguchi Garden.
Perfect. What about accessories for April?
One thought I had was enamel, Bangles, pendants, earrings.
No, we did that 2 years ago. What else?
Well, they're showing a lot of florals right now, so I was thinking I could
Florals? For spring. Groundbreaking.
Let's talk about how this plays out in terms of something that you interact with every day. Everybody interacts with, right? Let's look at food. Everybody needs to eat. So when you think about the production of food, what gets produced has already been decided, right? So farm labor, what season we're in, how available that farm labor is one element. Seed ownership, how available is the seed, who owns the seed, what's its price, that decides it. And then agribusiness decide ultimately what's going to be profitable, right, to grow. And then obviously you have the additional element of climate change. So that's how we decide what gets grown. So now that's already been decided, right? You're not involved there. And then we move to the distribution of that. So there are laws that determine what reaches where and at what cost and in what form specifically. So supermarket chains control the shelf access. The geography of freshness, right? So how long something can stay fresh for and how it can be moved around the world decides its geographical logistics. Laws and restrictions on additives and ingredients determine the form within which a thing can take, right? Then there's exchange, right? So the market then shapes desire, which makes you think you're choosing freely. So marketing creates the craving for it. Cereal is a prime example of this. Ingredient choice does a very similar thing. So some things will be super high in sugar and fats and salts to make them much more desirable. That combined with the marketing makes some foods literally physiologically irresistible once you've started eating them. You then have to look at the store placement. So the store decides based on their contract what eye level a thing goes at. Is it easy to see? Is it hard to see? Is it next to something that drowns it out? Is it one thing alongside 20 things, etc.? And then obviously there's the prices, which is set from a supermarket perspective by a whole load of factors, including things like wages, right? So is it affordable alongside something else? All these things all determine whether or not you buy that. So now we're at your level finally, we're at the level of the consumer, where you go into your supermarket and you think, I'm just choosing what I want. You, the consumer, who went in thinking I want X, Y, and Z, was decided by each one of these factors in turn. Maybe not by anyone individually. And obviously there's a big argument to say that the marketing sways this, but ultimately a lot of these decisions were made far more upstream from you. So you can only pick from the choices available, and the choices available were decided by somebody else. You are in essence Andy reaching for the cerulean blue jumper in this bargain bin. So then that consumption, the purchasing of these things, then reproduces the chain, right? And round it goes. And this circular notion of it is important, because it often feels like you're able to decide production when you're not. So the consumption then reproduces the whole system. So your preference, that signals back to agribusiness right at the top, what they should plant for next season, or coming seasons, or however that particular producer does it. So, but your craving for a particular thing was created for you 3 tiers up. The consumer at the bottom doesn't arrive there independently. They were produced just like everything else. So they're just another step in the production chain. You can take Miranda's monologue and replace what she's talking about with a whole host of different stuff. And there's an interesting way about the way that Miranda's framed in this. She calls out the inherent contradiction of the system whilst fully embracing it and placing herself deeply with it. So Miranda's position isn't somebody rebelling against it. She isn't in there thinking that this is an unjust system that's not right. She's deeply asserting her position on top of it. The subtext under what she's saying is, I am the person in the room. I am the person who decided that you were going to wear that jumper, and I am the person you should respect and bow down to and grovel to as a result of that. And she's proud of that power, and she thinks Andy should be grateful to exist simply around it. You're supposed to be, as an audience, in awe of Miranda in this moment. Oh, look at her power, she's such a titan of industry. It functions in a almost seductive kind of way, right? You're drawn into it. The point of that scene is to ground what is otherwise an incredibly materialistic, almost pointless industry, but ground it in reality of how it's crucial and pivotal to everybody's life. And how even though you think this is just some silly little thing that only certain people are interested in, it's had a huge bearing on you. And there's a key lesson to take from it. What Miranda has effectively shown Andy is that there's a small group of people who own the means of production that in a single industry have decided, way years in advance, what a young woman is going to buy from a bargain bin. And then she presents that back as if it's normal and natural. And that's how that works. And what I don't want you to take away from this, when I say a small group of people, again, there's no conspiracy here. This is all just people acting in self-interest, right? And this culture that we've built of wanting to be like Miranda, and that presentation of it as neutral and natural is exactly the point that Karl Marx is making.
1 nod is good, 2 nods is very good. There's only been 1 actual smile on record, and that was Tom Ford in 2001.
An Obi belt.
If she doesn't like it, she shakes her head.
This This is the dress that we have designed specifically and exclusively for you.
And of course, there's the pursing of the lips. Catastrophe.
So Miranda has laid out in pretty simple and clear terms exactly what control of the means of production gets you. Beyond all the material riches, the recognition and the respect, you get to decide what jumper your next intern's going to wear in 5 years' time or whatever it is. That's real power. There's almost an authoritarianism to Miranda and everything that she represents throughout this film. Miranda's presented as a complex antagonist who, through her power, shapes the audience's and Andy's view of the world. We all hate her, but we want to be her. We celebrate Miranda at the same time, and then in that particular scene, we empathise with Andy. To get that control, you don't need to have a singular authoritarian power. Miranda's gatekeeping that from her and everybody else. And Andy should get to decide democratically what happens. Collectively, not individually. If you want to know more about the poison of individualism in particular, check out this video. So Miranda and other people in her position in these huge corporate structures should not have this level of power. She should not be able to decide the fates of people, of the direction of production, and all of its resources, capital, and manpower. And the fact that she can do that so easily, I believe, sits at the heart of what is wrong with the world. We, the people, should get to decide what gets made, and for who, and how. Not people like Miranda Priestly. She's a disgusting person. And she only has her own interests at heart and vague notions of the company, which she treats like some higher master that she should serve, and as a result, completely debase herself and everybody around her. Miranda shows us the reality of our lives, but we need to work together to show people like Miranda that a new future is possible. A future where we don't have to get down on our knees and kiss the feet of people like her. Thanks so much for watching, and really hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been really fun to make. I would love to do much more of this, and the more time I have available to me, the more time I can write, research, learn, and ultimately the more content I can produce and put out. So if you really enjoyed it, please consider buying me a coffee and subscribe, like, share with your friends, check me out on TikTok, Instagram, and most importantly, subscribe to my Substack. There you'll find deeper dives into some of these topics. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.
But what if this isn't what I want? I mean, what if I don't want to live the way you live?
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us.